participants respond. I remember when I first started teaching, I was too nervous almost to even really notice what experience they were having. But I remember the first class when I was able to really drop in and look out and start to see the cogs turning. And you can see it in the questions they ask too, and just making these connections. And even though you see similar themes in every class, it's also everyone is unique. And so there's just a beauty to kind of both the cyclical consistency and the uniqueness of each new class and participant. So I love watching that happen live and team. And so you start to see a ripple effect where one person says, hey, what is it? You seem different. And then they're like, well, oh, I took Search Inside Yourself. And then they go take it, and then they tell their friends. And that's actually how most of the participants come into the class to begin with. They often don't really know what it's about. They've just heard somebody. In some cases, it's not even a first referral. It's like their friend told them that their friend took it and said it was good, and so they really have no idea what they're coming into. But I think that kind of speaks to the impact in and of itself, that there's something here, and even when people can't necessarily quantify it, they're interested and they show up for it.
Next, so we have a wonderful program, and what really makes it impactful is when a teacher is there, not just delivering content, but facilitating an experience. And when they're facilitating, there's a sense of, we don't know what's going to happen. We could teach the SIY program 20 times, and then the next time you teach, something completely unexpected happens. And when a teacher is really grounded in their own practice, it makes them not be afraid of the unknown, but actually that's something that's exciting. Oh, I wonder what this class is going to bring. I wonder what these group of people are going to offer me. And I think that's not only what we focus on in teacher training, but as a teacher, I think it's something that makes the practice alive and makes the work enjoyable.
I've had a mindfulness practice for a number of years, and I've always felt working in aerospace that it would be something helpful, particularly for engineers who work very hard, as a lot of them are pretty stressed out. But also, many of them are introverted, and there's a lot of challenges in interpersonal communication in a high-stress environment. And I knew that mindfulness could help, but I didn't quite know, how do I bring it to the office? And so, the Search Inside Yourself book popped up. I'm like, what is this organization? Got to look more into it. Looked at their website and thought, this is it. Here we go, got to do it. So, there was teacher training coming up here in Berkeley. The dates worked. So I said, I thought to myself, I'm not entirely sure what I'm signing up for, but it feels good, so I'm going to do it.
Period of time. I was initially very skeptical, coming from a traditional Zen background. I was like, this is. But I remember at one point taking a step back and going, I'm really deeply engaged with these people, just like as if I were on a retreat, and they're engaged with me. And then I took a further step back and said, and I'm not the only one doing that in this room. And at that point, I was hooked. I was sold. So,
the teacher training course, the way it's programmed, I think is absolutely fantastic, because it really gives you time as a person to come into this space and adapt aspects of the program as you go through the different segments. And what I found very transformational for me is the ability to learn how to be more empathetic. Coming into it thinking that we've already got some sense of empathy and some sense of awareness, but really learning about it in a much deeper way. That's been a very invaluable experience to me.
So I had a kind of difficult personal situation a few years ago, and what really helped me at that time was mindfulness, was meditation, was really getting more in touch again with myself, my soul, my body, whatever makes up me as a person. And then I noticed, while I got more into the topic, that as a leader, and I'm leading a company in Austria, that this really makes a difference for me as a leader, and that makes a big difference for the people who I lead. Yeah? It's sometimes just the nuances, so it's not really the big things, it's not the most obvious things that you need to do to actually make a difference for people, but it's really the how you do things.
I've been practicing mindfulness for 4 years now, and it has had so many benefits for me that I just wanted to share that with others. And I can share that with others in many different ways. But I thought this program specifically has a really nice language that it speaks. It speaks the language of science and of proof and of references and of emotional intelligence, and bringing a concept that's a very ancient Eastern tradition to the modern day life, and can be applied in just so many ways in our tech world and business world. And so this is what attracted me specifically to this program.
Meditation. I've been meditating for quite some time now. And for me personally, as an engineer, it was always such a big gap, especially in the beginning when I started out, between like this fuzzy world of meditation and between my logical engineering world. So once I found out about this search inside yourself approach, which is based in neuroscience and was developed within corporations, I found this a wonderful approach to this normally maybe as fuzzily perceived subject, to bring it out to more people.
This notion of empathy and how important it is to really bring the right energy to people in order to connect in the right way. And so for me, going from saying the right words to feeling the right feelings and just being there for somebody, I think is going to be transformational. And I can see the power it could have within teams to create the safety that's needed in order for people to really bring their full selves and ultimately really solve complex problems in a much better way.
Yeah, the neuroscience and research in the class is, I think, pretty critical to teaching it at Google. We don't necessarily go into great depth into each particular study, but I think every time we bring up a study or we're able to point to neuroplasticity and what's changing in your brain, it buys us credibility with the participants. And there's still people who are not satisfied by that, of course, but by and large that seems to be enough to at least get a foot in the door. And once we start talking about the rest of the concepts, I think more of that kind of instinctive human response kicks in, and people are like, oh yeah, this resonates because I've lived this, you know, these are just things we all experience, but the neuroscience and research is really critical to getting past that initial hesitation.
I had never led a meditation before, so I was really expectant about it, and when I got the opportunity to do it, it was a very enriching experience for me because I felt so good doing it, and the feedback I received from my partners was awesome, so it was a great experience. And I'm really grateful for the instructors because you know, they created the energy and all the settings for that to happen. So,
connection. Not only connection to my inner self, but connection to all the cohort and our teachers. I guess as a teacher, I'm not the expert to deliver my knowledge from my brain, but also to be fully with participants, to meet people fully with my heart. I think that is the best quality as a teacher.
People really bring the program into the communities that they're in and find ways to connect and kind of grow the business of people that they're already working with and finding new people. I'm reminded of teachers that went through teacher training years ago, and in particular regions where when they started, no one had heard of Search Inside Yourself. And then they were able to do a keynote here or there or a half day, and then a year later, now they're doing multiple 2 days for large groups of people. And it's really, I mean, it's work. It's not something that just people become certified and then they're able to, people are just knocking at the door wanting them to teach them SIY. But I think when people really have a heart of service and they really want to offer something, that they find opportunities to offer that. And I found that people that have that kind of persistence are really successful.
Just that if you're thinking about doing the program, find the courage in you to take a risk because it's so worth it and it will really transform your life. And I just really recommend it to anyone.
Am I in the TV right now, or?
You're not. You are.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom.
Look, I love it. You can start.
ask the question
You
differently.
can start with.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting real.
Let's start with.
Real.
Let's start with.
That's the fun things, because that's not good.
As a trainer,